Hello, everyone. I'm Harvey Brownstone, and today's guest is one of Hollywood's most popular, innovative, and prodigious filmmakers, making his third appearance on our show. He's well known for his highly popular movies, including Gridiron Gang, My Trip Back to the Dark Side, Mistrust, The Untold Story, and Break Even. When I first interviewed him, we focused not only on his movies, but on his best-selling book entitled What You Don't Learn in Film School, A Complete Guide to Independent Filmmaking, which has become mandatory reading for aspiring filmmakers. Last time he was here, we talked about his blockbuster hit movie, Double Threat, which was one of last year's most popular movies and one of the most watched movies around the world on Amazon Prime. Now he's back to discuss his highly anticipated brand new movie entitled Night Train, which has just been released on a number of cable TV networks and streaming platforms, including Xfinity, Verizon, Apple TV, iTunes, Amazon Prime, Google Play, and many more. The movie was written by our guest's longtime collaborator, the brilliant C.J. Wally, and it has everything you want in a great film: an intriguing plot, memorable characters, great dialogue, suspenseful action, terrific visuals and production values, and some thought-provoking themes to ponder after the final credits roll. Here's the trailer.
You guys hustled me.
You just got smoked by the night train, son.
Slow down, girl.
Can't hear ya.
I'm behind on bills.
I can't afford legal meds.
There's a cartel that's trafficking black market medical supplies to Vegas.
Thank you.
That's where you come in.
Looks like I'm going on a wild goose chase.
All the local pilots are freaking out right now. If I can't get supplies to Vegas, everything stops.
I have a proposal for you.
You're suggesting you run my contraband up the highway.
I'll get your medication to Vegas, and I will make planes look slow in the process.
Assume everyone you meet over the next 24 hours is armed. There is a 3-hour window to move everything.
I got you. If you'd got me, you'd be arresting me right now. To handle a problem like you, just need a revolver and a bullet. It's always harder to hit a moving target, so catch me if you can. The feds are on to me. It's just a matter of time.
You're pissing off some really scary people.
It's my little boy's life on the line.
I'm delighted to welcome back to our show the man who directed, produced, and edited Night Train, my very dear friend, the one and only Shane Stanley. Shane, thank you so much for being here.
Harvey, wow, they say third time's the charm. I tell you, it is an honor to be here, and thank you again for having me.
It's my pleasure. Shane, as you know, I've had the pleasure and the thrill of seeing Night Train. I absolutely loved it. Congratulations on a triumphant achievement.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This one was a long time in the waiting of release. We had Night Train done, completely locked and loaded, I think, in May of 22. And because of the distributors' slot that they had for theaters and what their commitments were for, the platforms, digital and streaming platforms, they told us early on it was going to be in January of 23. So that's always frustrating when you have something that you have to kind of keep under lock and key for 6-7 months. But it's so nice to have it out finally, and the responses have been overwhelming. And being here to talk about it I'm really excited.
Me too. I don't want to give away too much of the story, so I'll simply say that it's about a single mom with a sick child who's very dependent on medication. She's struggling to make ends meet, so she volunteers to run black market medical supplies in her truck while evading a ruthless federal cop. Tell me what drew you to this story.
You set it up perfectly. What doesn't, right? It's our model has always kind of been going with the Hal Needham vibe of the 70s with Cannonball Run and Smokey and the Bandit, but putting the women in the driver's seat and letting Bandit ride shotgun, right? And for me, you know, during the pandemic, CJ, who you mentioned, the writer in this film and a producing partner on it, CJ, during the pandemic, we were just coming up with so many ideas. You know, we had come up with Double Threat and a lot of other things that we ended up doing. And he pushed this one at me, and I honestly, I thought, oh wow, that's really cool, but not now. And when Double Threat was done, our partners were licking their chops, ready to go. I said, what do you want to do next? And I started going through all the things that we had come up with during the pandemic. And for some reason, I just kept going back to this one. I loved the fact that, you know, I knew, you know, you mentioned the sick child. I have two friends that were close to me growing up that had cystic fibrosis, which is what the child has. That's played by Thomas Nelson, the son of the star Danielle C. Ryan. And incidentally, I learned when we were making Double Threat with Danielle, her nephew has cystic fibrosis. So it was something that was very close to her. And I just felt like after coming off a Double Threat, which, let's be honest, was a fun, grab ass, you know, mountainside, crazy, you know, action, silly film, I wanted to do something with a little bit more heart, but also social issue, because, you know, and you're in Canada where you guys don't have an issue like we do with our insurance situations. But I do know a lot of families with great insurance that have a child with cystic fibrosis, it could still cost them upwards of $40,000 a year on top of it for them to have their medicines handled. And we just wanted to kind of put a light on that and just make people realize this is still a serious issue here.
We've talked about CJ Wally's writing the last time you were here because he wrote Double Threat. But the thing that really stands out about him for me is his very unique ability to get inside the heads of unusual women living on the edge. Where do you think that comes from?
I think he's an unusual man living on the edge. CJ, what really attracted us to work together, Harvey, was the fact that we like the same kind of films, but more so we like the same kind of female characters in our films. CJ really does go into a different indie, real, his favorite films are different than mine, but the female characters are very similar. I think why Don Olivieri worked so well in Double Threat for us, and, you know, Tasia Tellis in Break Even. And when we come up with a character, he writes a character, we are always so right on point with, oh my God, this person has to play it. And it worked that way with Diora Baird. You know, I've wanted to work with Diora, who plays our ruthless FBI agent. That's after Daniel's character. I wanted to work with Diora since I did Gridiron Gang. We had two films. We each had a film out at the same time. She had the Texas Chainsaw Massacre out with Jordana Brewster, and we did some junkets parallel. And I always said, God, I want to work with her. She's really intense. And this came along, and I said to CJ, what do you think about Diora? And he said, oh my God, she'd be great. And, you know, probably got way off track of your question, which I tend to do, but it's like, for me, you know, I just love these strong, flawed female characters. They're sexy, they're strong, but they've got so many problems, but they don't wear it. You know, they're not kind of girl who comes in with something with baggage. They deal with it through different outlets. And I just love characters like that.
I want to give people a sense of CJ Wally's extraordinary writing style. Here are some of the zingers in the dialogue that I just can't get out of my head. I want to give you three of them. Some men just aren't made for manhood. Bad debts never take care of good debts. When something innocent is killed, something innocent takes its place. Shane, this man has a real gift with words, doesn't he?
I think he does. You know, he is so articulate, and he finds ways to put words into characters' mouths that are not sappy, they're not cliche. You know, when you talk about that line, when something good, you know, when something bad dies, something takes its place. It was such an important moment in the film because, you know, without spoiling too much, but, you know, Diora's character, Agent Jackson, you know, it's their big showdown at the end. And she's got her baggage that we still don't understand what that is. And then you've got a mother who is literally taking her child, running for her life to get a better life and to escape all that, you know, the hell and the walls that are closing in. it's their showdown. And to have some of these lines come up during that was like it was such a gift. You know, CJ, the one thing he has done time and time again is he brings the screenplay from CJ is always a gift. And, you know, it's up to me to screw it up. You know, I wish so much of his work could be just read without somebody else trying to create the universe, because his words alone are so beautiful.
Yeah, they really are. Let's talk about the cast for a moment, starting with the luminous Danielle C. Ryan, who also starred in Double Threat. She plays the single mom who's determined to do whatever's necessary to get medication for her son. Danielle just keeps getting better and better, doesn't she?
I tell you, she is such a blessing, not only to work with, but as a human being. I mean, I've been in this industry, as you know, too long. And I've never known anybody more down to earth, more humble, more no ego. It's amazing. She doesn't come off like, you know, you work with somebody like Jane Seymour. You know, Jane Seymour is showing up more prepared than anybody. I would equate Danielle's preparedness or readiness to work each day to Jane's. She doesn't flub lines. You give her a direction, you change blocking, you change a scene, you merge scenes. No matter what you throw her on the moment, she doesn't screw it up. There are times in Night Train and that final scene, she got one take because there was a 2-mile freight train. It was a 2-mile long freight train right next to the scene where the girls had their showdown, and you can't record dialogue with the freight train, and we were losing light. I just looked, I saw it coming, and I knew I still had to get Diora's side. And I just said, Danny, I said, you're going to have one take at this. She said, let's do it. And what you saw is what you get. And it's so wonderful as a filmmaker to go into situations like that, Harvey, when it's like being in a stage play on Broadway or a soap opera. These people get one take. And Danielle, she's so fun and easygoing and loosey-goosey, but man, when it's time to work, her focus, her dedication, and her just tunnel vision on it is, I've never seen it. And I think it comes, you know, when you look at her martial arts training and all the fight skills she has, so much discipline comes from that. And she translates it so well to the work.
And the antagonist in the film, the federal cop, is played by the amazing Diora Baird, who absolutely blew me away because her character's extremely layered and complex. What guidance did you give her as a director?
You know, Diora and I had breakfast when she read the script and wanted to do the film. We went and had breakfast. I spent 30 seconds with Diora and I realized I didn't have to do anything. I knew this was Diora, and that's not saying she's a difficult or layered mess. I could tell, you know, when you meet with somebody, they know their craft as an actor, but they got it. They know more about that character in one read than you ever will. And they start telling you the things about that character that that hit them home. And the one thing I knew about Diora, and I know she really embodied Agent Jackson and she's method to the core. And, you know, she was that person on the set. She was lovely and wonderful to work with. But I mean, boy, when we were on the clock, that's who she was. She never broke. And you just know somebody brings an intensity, and there's something about her. There's such a storm within the calm. You know, a lot of people say there's a calm in the storm. There's a storm in the calm. And, you know, I just felt like she left nothing on the set that she didn't give us. You know, they'll say an athlete left nothing on the field. I mean, that's how I feel with Diora. Her performance in this, I'm so proud of her and what she gave us.
There are two key scenes in the movie involving Danielle's character and Diora's character. In each of those scenes, the chemistry between these two actresses was electrifying. Tell me how you made that happen as a director.
You got to be talking about the scene in the cafe.
That's one of them.
That scene, I'll tell you how much respect I have for Diora, especially, is that was the first scene she shot with us, really. You know, she came in about 10 days into our filming. She came in and then wrote it out with us till the end. I think we're on to film 28, 29 days. And I always try to make it easy on somebody when they come, you know, when they're trying to get caught up to the rest. of the cast and the crew and the flow. And I was really trying to avoid something tough for her to do those days. But, everything Dior did had a lot of meat. And it just, with the location and just everybody else's schedule, it just had to fall on that day. And it was really cool. I knew, again, I always trust my actors. When I hire an actor or commit to an actor, I don't second guess that decision. I'm all in. And it's kind of a Sidney Lumet theory, is you die on that sword. If you hire an actor, you commit to it. You don't second guess it, and you go all in. And I tell my actors, I trust you. Give me what I need and I'll give you what you want. And I've never had an actor do something and then after it's done say, wait, I want to try something else because we didn't click. It's always a gift what they give us on extra takes or whatever. And I usually use that. But I remember when Dior and Danny sat down, they met and they sat across from each other as we were setting up and they were just going over lines. I was listening in the headphones. And I looked over to Levi, our co-producer, who was on the show with me in Palm Springs. I said to Levi, I said, God, I wish I was rolling right now. They don't need anything. They don't need me.
That's amazing. So what were the biggest challenges in shooting the film?
The biggest challenges in making Night Train was, it was the things that you would never know. It was, believe it or not, it was the weather. It was, we shot in Palm Springs. It couldn't have gone better. In 35 years of producing and directing films, it was by far my most enjoyable experience. The windstorms that we hit a couple of times, we shot it September, October, and in November. The windstorms out near those wind tunnel, those propellers, which you see, there were times we were trying to work and you couldn't see 8 inches in front of you. I mean, the sandstorms were unbelievable. And fortunately, Levi, who's also, managed all our locations and handled that, he always had a plan B. And it was just, that would be a little difficult sometimes because, okay, we're shooting here today. No, we're not. We're actually going to the bar today, everybody. And it's just that, not how you woke up thinking the day would go, but that can happen anywhere. Good Lord, every day on break even was something we weren't supposed to be doing. That's filmmaking. But that was really it. It was just dealing with some of the weather issues of windstorms and rain and, some of those things. We were really fortunate with safety. We had, a lot of stunts going on. We had 100 of those race cars in the opening 5 minutes of the film. And we had helicopters and we had, Night Train flying off a freeway with its lights off. I mean, you set yourself up for a lot of things that can go wrong. And, hats off to Mike Ryan, our second unit director, and Tegan Hammond, our wonderful stunt coordinator. I mean, we didn't have any issues. Nobody even broke a fingernail on that film. And we had, Valerie Thompson doing over 200 miles an hour on a motorcycle. Let's not forget.
I know there were some very cool vehicles in this movie. I have to say, did you get to drive any of them? Absolutely.
I got to drive the Dodge Demon from the opening, which is a big coveted vehicle. Everybody loves the Dodge Demon. Of course, Night Train. That truck's been in our film family for 10 years. She just got a nice, she got all fixed up for the movie, got a new paint job, new wheels and tires and all that fun stuff. That belongs to our producer, Neil Chisholm. And then Valerie Thompson brought her BMW 1100 out, which we didn't get to ride because, Valerie's a 10-time world champion record holder she's the fastest woman on 2 wheels, and she doubled Danielle C. Ryan. The only stunt Danny didn't do was on the motorcycle because we had her out at El Mirage and she was going over 225 miles an hour. And that's just something that I didn't feel comfortable having Danny do, even though I know she'd probably do it. And Valerie was amazing. It was just amazing what she was able to do.
Now, Shane, if I read the credits correctly, you not only produced and directed the film, you edited it as well, correct?
I did. I cut this one too. Yeah.
Well, one thing that I really admired in the editing was that you took a lot of time in the first half of the film for character development. The pace of the film steadily increases and intensifies as we get more invested in the plot. A lot of that is because of the editing, and I think you did an amazing job, Shane.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It means a lot. Thank you.
Now, without going too much into the plot, because I don't want to give away any spoilers, there are a few themes in this movie that I just have to mention because they elevate the film beyond the typical suspense action film. The first theme that really struck me is the assessment of moral blameworthiness. You have the contrast between the two women, the desperate mom whose motivation is honorable, and the conflicted, damaged cop who's got a legitimate job to do, but is struggling with her own moral ambiguity. For me, as a retired judge, I love movies that make us question the real definition and meaning of justice. Do you know what I mean?
Wow. I do. And the way you articulated that and then capped it with being a judge, yeah. Yeah.
It's really a special part of the movie because there aren't a lot of films that make you really question in that way that you've contrasted those two characters, question the real meaning of what justice is. And if I may, another theme that really struck me in the film is the relationship between the female cop and her male supervisor. And also the fact that the orders he gives are dictated by politics involving the people he's beholden to. You're making a definite statement about law enforcement in this movie, aren't you?
Well, first off, yes, but what's really important is that we do support law enforcement. We're not interested in defunding anybody. We don't believe all cops are bad. But I also do know that there are people that march to a drum that is not really one that is in the best interest of our society. And as we try to show, is you've got this tortured soul in Diora's character, who is basically sent to the desert to there's a black market medical supply dealer who was taking this stuff in and out, and the hub's in Vegas, and it comes through here, and find it. And what we later learn is that he is aware of her past and her military and her demons, that she is burying an alcohol and sex addiction. And, he's also got people that he's beholden to. And I am always a believer that, and you've been involved in the federal level and government a lot more than I ever would be, Harvey, but I always believe there's people behind the curtains that are pulling strings that we'll never know about. And I just for CJ and I, it was important to, without getting too much into that, is just reminding people that there's stuff going on that we'll never know about.
But it adds a layer to the film that gives it more depth than your typical action suspense movie. And I love that about you as a filmmaker. I love it about CJ Wally's writing. Is Night Train the movie you're most proud of so far?
There's something about it, Harvey, that I'm just so proud of. And I try not to get too emotionally vested in, I learned a long time ago that the passion pieces are the ones that never really get made, or the ones that are going to break your heart the most. It's the nice little surprises that you do, randomly or impromptu, like Double Threat, that could change your life or the next chapter of your career. So I try not to think of it that way, but there's something about Night Train, and you and I have discussed, to me, it was special. It was, we were finally out of the real restrictions of COVID in filmmaking. We still had to adhere to things, but it was nice. We didn't have to have a crew of 8 and a cast of 4. We were able to really get back into what we do. I grow and mature as a filmmaker every time I do one. And, having now worked with CJ 3 times, and Danielle twice, and Ivan and Brent Bailey and Paul, and everybody in the film was somebody who I've worked with before. I was really proud of Ivan Sergey, Joe Reitman, Joe Lando, of course. God, he's getting so much kudos for his work in this film. I'm so proud of him.
Well, you have every reason to be immensely proud of this terrific film. And I'm immensely proud of you, Shane, because your trajectory as a filmmaker is so remarkable. You just keep challenging yourself to make bigger and better movies.
Thank you. I try. I was very fortunate as a young man and to be a part of some very successful things. And I feel I just kind of refuse to put my life in cruise control. I don't want to look back and say, okay, I've slayed dragons that I don't have to worry about. Now it's about challenging myself, having fun, making things, pushing the envelope, and just challenging myself to, get more out of what we have to work with, and to build the film family, and to build a brand, and to just have fun. What's more important to me is the journey and the experience of making the film with my film family than however successful it is. That I understand number one box office hits in successful films. That's great. As we talked about in my book, you know, there's 52 number one movies a year. You know, it's like that comes and goes, but it's that time together with your cast and crew and that experience to me that is the most important. And this experience with the cast and crew was second to none.
When I had Diane Ladd on the show a few weeks ago, she spoke very frankly about the unfortunate politics of the awards business, the awards season. And I can't resist asking you, you have been in this business almost 40 years. Your father is a veteran filmmaker as well. What do you think of this whole concept of campaigning for awards and the politics involved in the awards ceremonies themselves? What do you take from all that?
You know, it's interesting you ask. I don't want to correct a judge, but I've been in this industry 50 years.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I got my acting debut when I was 9 months old. I'm 51 now. But yeah, that is, you know, I always find it curious when the award season hits. It's always the same movies that just seem to do so well with everybody, right? Let's start there. I mean, whether it's the Critics' Choice, whether it's the Golden Globes or the Oscars, isn't it funny how they all just mysteriously pick the same shows to be awarded? Mrs. Ladd was correct. I mean, there is such a campaigning. There is payola. I know people in certain award sects without you know, throwing anybody under the dump truck. Listen, I've met with people and they've said, look, you want to put a certain amount of money in a brown paper bag, dude, that's how you get, you know, considered. Okay. I don't put money in bags for awards. I don't care. I mean, you know, I've been fortunate. Trust me, we didn't have any money for the Emmys we won back in the day, but you know, it's a different game now. There's a lot of, you know, look at what the Weinsteins did. It's no secret when they had Miramax, wasn't it always curious? They always had these indie films that were just constantly up for all these Oscars and all, you know, good on them. They weren't horrible films, but there's the reality of it. You know, they put more money into the campaign for the Oscars and Golden Globes than they did into the film itself. I mean, it's just what they did.
It's disturbing because the public that doesn't know anything about this places a great deal of credence on awards, especially the Golden Globes and the Oscars. And yet insiders in the business know that this is basically about buying nominations and wins.
It is. I mean, but isn't it like that in so many businesses? I mean, how many people have actual New York Times bestsellers and they buy 200,000 copies of their own book? I mean, that's really not anything new under the sun. I mean, you know, it's unfortunate. I think, you know, everybody's got, I think in that world, everybody's got a price. And I think there's plenty of businesses, studios, producers that they say they're going to make a movie for X amount of dollars and let's allocate, you know, this much to make sure we get a strong campaign for the award.
So then tell me, how do you, as a filmmaker, measure your success in what you do?
Right here. I could, at the end of the day, I don't buy what we have. I'm not owned. We are blessed with wonderful backers that trust us and say, go make movies that you want to make. And if 5 people see them and we had fun doing it and we're proud of it, that's the same thing. You know, I don't have the budgets to go grease somebody $20 million or 10 million or 650,000 to somebody at the Golden Globes that wants it in a brown bag dropped off to their house in Hollywood. You know, I'd rather make a whole movie with that. So for me, it's about just doing what I love and working with the people. And the awards, you know, they come and go. They're important to a lot of people. I get it. They're everything in this industry. But as you said, when you're in the industry and you know how a lot of them are getting done, you just don't think about it.
Well, I love that about you because to me, it spells integrity.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say on it. It's just, it's funny, I've had investors come to us and say, look, we want to make movies that are going to win Oscars. That's most important. I said, great. How much money do you have on top of the movie to pay for that process? I mean, the qualification, forget about greasing hands and wheels. Let's talk about the qualification process for an independent film and what it has to go through. It usually far surpasses the amount of money that we even make movies for. So it's not even up for grabs it's not even something that we think about. I always tell investors that, hey, I want to make stuff that's going to win Oscar. Great. You're probably not working with the right guy. I mean, I put it on a screen, man.
And that's what the public wants to see. We want to be entertained. I want to tell our viewers that you can learn more about Shane Stanley and all of his projects by going to his official website, shanestanley.net. And you can also follow the movie's Facebook page by going to Night Train the Movie on Facebook. Well, Shane, my friend, I want to close this interview by quoting a line of dialogue from the movie to you. Holly's father says this to her: when the world can't keep up with you, that's how you make a difference. That's what makes you a pioneer. Shane, those words most definitely apply to you. Thank you so much for giving me this interview.
Oh, wow. Thank you. That's humbling coming from you. Yeah. I think that scene with Joe Lando and Danielle C. Ryan in the junkyard as we kick off Act 5 is something that's really special. There's a lot of, again, kudos to CJ. Some of the dialogue in that scene are really important. And thank you for what you said. I appreciate that, Harvey.
I can't wait to have you back with every film you make. We love having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Well, that means I'll have to make another one so I can come back a fourth time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a fifth and a sixth and a seventh.
All right. You're not going to let me retire. I got to keep going. All right. You get to retire and have fun. All right. I'm having fun. All right. All right.
Our guest has been the phenomenally gifted filmmaker Shane Stanley, whose latest movie, Night Train, is now available for viewing on a large number of cable TV and streaming platforms, depending on your location. So check it out and don't miss it. My name is Harvey Brownstone. Thank you to our producer, Steve Silver. Thank you to my wonderful management team in LA, Rick and Robin Marcelli. Thank you to my team in the UK. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out all the great interviews on the Harvey Brownstone Interviews YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when new videos are posted.